Hello, my name is Carlos, and probably have you seen from a YouTube video I indicated that I had gone over to fabric pots to grow my seedlings. Now, after about 8-9 months of doing that, I find that there may be a problem with the fabric pots. This is an example. This is a fabric pot. This is a plastic 5-gallon pot. They were grafted on the same day, May 25th of 2012. But look at the difference. It's the same variety, Kahalu from Hawaii. Look at the difference in this one. Look at the difference in this one. This is pretty underdeveloped. Earlier today, I noticed another situation similar to this, and I removed the fabric pot and found very little growth around the upper part of the seedling root ball, and then very damaged taproot that had grabbed the bottom of the fabric pot and it had died. So I'm pretty concerned, and I'm going back to the idea of a 5-gallon pot. When you want to graft critical things that you really want to take, I may even move away from using fabric pots for my seedlings. Soon now we're going to take this apart and see what it looks like. I'm going to cut the fabric pot to make sure I get a clear picture of what's going on in here. I already have back in here a 5-gallon plastic pot with some soil, because I want, after I examine this, I'm just going to put it into a fabric pot. So what we're going to do, we're simply just going to cut this in a couple of spots to make it easier to examine. May I add at this point that these seedlings have been in these spots for well over a year. So let's gonna bring the camera closer to here and see what we find. I don't see a lot of roots around here. Some beginning to show there. See, there is, whoops, no, yes, it's just a piece of wood. See, no, not a lot of roots up here. This should be really hopping with full of roots, and they're not. Okay, so now some here, but not a lot, not as much as I was expecting. So now let's see what's happening down below. Oh, what's going on here? Very weak root system, very weak. You see how that fell apart? Should have never happened. Whoa, very weak root system, very weak. This is all seeds, so this is interesting. Wow, a lot of dead roots in the bottom. This is what I suspected. You see, a lot of dead roots. A lot of dead roots. All these roots here, they look, you see how they're falling apart? They're dead. So I am not sure what to make. You see, this seems to be like the taproot that turned around and is not doing very well. It's dead here. This is dead. So the interesting thing is that what we're going to do, we're going to try to, nice earthworm here. We're going to try to plant that in there to see if it improves or it dies. But the way this is not going, oops, let me get the worm. This was not going anywhere. Whoa, let me put it in the pot. Okay. That was a true surprise. I have taken this little poor root system that you see here, which should have been 10 times as big. I dipped it in some kind of a solution that I have, startup solution, to help it along, and I'm going to plant it now in the new pot. In conclusion, we know now that we have to be careful with fabric pots. They are not all that it's advertised to be. from our prior video to today, what could have happened is that we are in a rainy season and we could have had some root rot. I was relying on the fact that these fabric pots dry quicker and I may have been watering too much. But this does not happen with this type of pot. So I am really considering not using the fabric pots anymore and going back to my plastic pots. They seem to be more reliable. In all fairness to the fabric pots, we need to know what happens to this plant now. And in a couple of months, probably I will do a follow-up, either post it in writing or do a small video to see what happens to this plant. But the fact that I have been noticing some problems with my seedlings on fabric pots, it's enough for concern. So we'll see in a few months.